Good morning and welcome to the iGaming Daily, brought to you by Optimove, the #1 CRM solution for the iGaming market. Today, we come to you on the cusp of the SBC Summit Americas from Florida, and to preview the event and to talk about everything that's going down in the Sunshine State, I've got Aidan Brain, who, there's nobody better really to tell us about everything that's going on this week. Aidan, firstly, how are you? I bet you're very tired.
I am very tired, Joe. Yeah, that's really all I can say. There's a lot to do ahead of next week. It's going to be a fantastic event, but the last couple of weeks have involved a lot of late nights. Definitely, I'll say that much.
I can imagine, but there's got to be a real level of excitement there too, because all that hard work, and it's a long time of hard work. I think as soon as one event ends, you're thinking about the next event. All those plans, all those late nights, all those coffees. Yeah, you're about to see the rewards of those.
Well, that's it, exactly. And, that's one of the great things about working in the events industry is that you work on something for such a long time. I mean, here at SBC, we start producing our conference programs 9 or 10 months out. And then, that all that time, all that work, like you said, you actually get to see it come to fruition. So I am super excited for next week to see everything come to fruition. And I am for every conference we do, but especially this one. SBC Summit Americas is the first edition of SBC Summit Americas, really, because obviously, as you know, we're combining our former North America Summit with our former Latin America Summit. And so I'm really, really excited to see how those two events, which were already flagship events in their own right, come together and become an even bigger event. I don't think there's many other companies in this industry that have done that and done it in, in the time frame that we've done it in. So I am super excited to see that.
Yeah, the integration is really a perfect fit, and it makes a lot of sense. I can't wait to see it come together. And I want to draw you back, though, Aidan, just on something you said. Obviously, as you mentioned, the process starts early doors, and a lot of people within the industry, myself included, I get to see a little bit behind the curtain, but not as much as you. But a lot of people will see the final product. They'll be at the event. They'll see everything set up. They'll see the full agenda. You see that from day one. You see the square one on that plan. Where do you start with an event like this? What does day one of planning such a monster event look like?
Yeah, I mean, really, well, I say we start 9 or 10 months out. I guess really we start a year out. We start as soon as the 2024 event is done, let's say, then we really start preparing for the 2025 event, because it's all about getting the feedback from our audience. The conference is made for the audience, right? It's kind of, I always say it's made for the industry, by the industry. So we take our customer feedback really seriously. We get a lot of comments, a lot of compliments, but sometimes complaints about the topics, the speakers, and so on. So it really does start then, figuring out how we can always grow and improve upon the past year's conference. And then it's kind of about working with the expert speakers that we've had at that conference, getting very tentative confirmation for next year is one thing, but also finding out what they think could be improved and what they think is going to be important in a year's time. And so it's a balancing act, right? Because we need to start a year out, but we also need to make sure that the topics we feature on the agenda are current. So this is something that's kind of changing and developing throughout the year, really, our agendas. But 9 months out, we'll start doing research, we'll start writing the topics, we'll start recruiting speakers. And it's just a constant process up until now. There's still some topics that we added just last week because we like to be as current as we possibly can. And whilst that is a massive headache for me, it's really crucial for our audience, because you simply just can't have a conference talking about things that were relevant 9 months ago. And the industry is a fast moving one. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. I'm a journo that attends events. Obviously, there are events, but I attend other events as well. And it's brilliant when you see things that you've written about last week, or, things that are in the news right now, and they've been slipped into the event at the last minute with big speakers. And you go, this is, even though it gives you a lot of sleepless nights, you've really got your finger on the pulse of what's going on. So
it does. Obviously, it is stressful, but to bring it back to what you just said about you being a journo, obviously that's one of the reasons I love SBC is that we have the media arm of SBC who really do have their fingers on the pulse. So always incredibly helpful to have you guys there and to kind of bounce ideas off. And SBC Media's various different publications are where I go, and this podcast are where I go to find out what is happening, right now, what is the cutting edge. So that's always super helpful to have, and it's just crucial as well.
I guess another question for you, as this planning process begun, Florida was decided as the location.
Yes.
Why Florida? Well,
that really comes from the combination of the North America audience and the Latin America audience. So Miami and the South Florida metropolitan area is, many people refer to it as the capital of Latin America. It's one of the easiest places to fly from other Latin American countries. So, for example, it's easier to fly from Brazil to Miami or Argentina to Miami than it is to fly from Argentina to Colombia or to Mexico. So, it's a major hub for Latin American business, even though it is, in the United States. Miami is kind of a melting pot. It just represents that combination of, I guess, the English-speaking world and the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking world. So, that really made a lot of sense for us. Also, we've been running our Latin America Summit in Hollywood, Florida for years. It's just always been really well received. There are just a lot of great places to go. The weather is decent as well. We obviously used to run the North America Summit up here in New York, and you can never quite tell this time of year how the weather's going to be in early May. So perfect for that. But it really is about that kind of bridge between North and Latin America, which is what the event aims to be. And, as a city or a metro area, South Florida is that bridge. So that's why we went with Florida.
Nice. And I don't want to go too much into the logistics of stuff like that, but that was one of the things that really caught me off guard with Lisbon when I was seeing some of the behind the scenes planning of Lisbon, looking at flights and what flights logistically get people there from here. And yeah, that's just a real side of the industry that I think a lot of people don't understand how pivotal it is.
Yeah, it's really important. And it does, we have whole teams working on booking flights for speakers, and, we'll sometimes, assist attendees if we can. We obviously try and provide as much information as possible as we can. So, and it does kind of change the process of recruiting speakers. I mean, I did say that as early as this week, there are new speakers who've come on board. Sometimes a couple of changes are made or new topics are introduced. But obviously you have to think about, if we just added somebody who's coming in from, let's say, Buenos Aires, then that's at this point, by next week, that's a $2,000 flight we're talking about. So yeah, it is the whole logistics side of it. Luckily, I don't have to get involved in too much, but we do have a really good team here at SBC that kind of runs that smoothly. Thank God it's not me doing it, because I get stressed out booking my own flights. So yeah.
Yeah, you and me both. I wouldn't fancy that. That's quite a stressful one for sure. And yeah, we've spoken about the logistics, and we're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we are going to get into what is actually going down next week, because there is so much going on. Okay, yeah, Aidan, thanks again for joining us. And as we begin part 2 of the iGaming Daily, a special look at this week in Florida, the SBC Summit Americas. And yeah, the event really comes at a pivotal time for North America and North American sports, because we are closing in on a FIFA World Cup across North America. How vital do you think this event could be to helping operators and even suppliers and any stakeholders in the industry maximizing the opportunity of that World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for sports betting companies, next year's World Cup is a huge opportunity, but it could be a wasted opportunity, right? If they don't know how to capitalize on it in the right way, and if they're not already out there building those partnerships and getting those brand campaigns underway. We do have a panel on the second day of the event this week, which is all around the tournament next year, how companies can make the most of that. In fact, I think that panel is actually being moderated by SBC's own Martin Elliott, so really looking forward to that one. It's and not only that, but I mean, one of the headliners that we have this week is the brand new CEO of BetMGM, who's going to be talking all about building a new brand. That's one of the major themes that runs throughout this year's conference, I would say, is how you capitalize on the opportunities that are out there in from a brand, from a loyalty, from just a growing your customer base standpoint. I think that's where the sector has come to, especially in the US right now. There's the big two or the big four, or however you like to frame it when it comes to sports betting operators. And we're getting to that point where a lot of the second movers, it's either sink or swim now, right? And if they don't capitalize on the opportunities that are available to them, then they may very well sink, and they may very well do so quickly. One of the brands, you could call a second mover who has really done it right is Fanatics, and their chief business officer, Ari, will be one of the headliners this week as well. And he'll be talking all about how Fanatics has kind of pivoted and, kind of bobbed and weaved to get to a good place with their audience base. So, long answer, but there's a lot of that stuff this week in the agenda. And I think that operator attendees particularly will find it very useful.
Yeah, I agree. And, the big guys at Fanatics and BetMGM, certainly a bigger pull than Martin, who will be moderating the panel. But what I will tell you is...
I wouldn't say so.
Well, and what I'll tell you is what Martin doesn't know about the FIFA World Cup, you could probably write on the back of a cigarette paper.
Right.
So if you see Martin around the event this week, just quiz him on the World Cup, randomly just spot check him on his World Cup knowledge, because he knows everything about football. He's got a wealth of football knowledge for sure. And you mentioned some big speakers, some well-decorated speakers at the event. Yeah. We've also got the first pitch competition. Could you talk us through that?
Yes, the first pitch competition will be happening this Thursday. We run it every year. It's a big hit, standing room only, and it's a little break from traditional panels. So, I always find it really exciting to be a part of it. We have 5 fantastic judges. We have a host, and we've been gathering finalists for the first pitch for a while now. Basically, companies, startup companies, don't quiz me on what the exact criteria is. It's something to do with what, funding round they're in. But startup companies that definitely, have a great product, but haven't necessarily had the capital to make it big yet. So we've whittled it down to 5 finalists. They'll all do little demos, very short demos and kind of pitches to the judges, to the audience. The judges will then go away and discuss and come back and announce a winner. And we do have a package for the winners. Quite a few of our partners have pitched in there to provide things to our winners. SBC itself has provided a couple of things. Again, please don't quiz me on all of those parts of the package, because I don't know everything. Might seem like I do, but I don't, about first pitch. But yeah, it is always really, really fun and really exciting. So yeah.
Yeah, you could have fooled me. I had you down as knowing everything, so you had me reeled in. So don't worry.
I do a good act. Yeah.
And it also provides these companies with a real platform to get their product out, even if they don't win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. There's going to be hundreds of people in the audience. Our judges themselves, many of them are pretty big investors, and influential in the VC world. So even if the finalist doesn't win the prize, just the access they're going to have to these people and the exposure from being part of this event, I would say is a pretty good consolation prize.
Okay, yeah, a real opportunity, and certainly something to watch out for next week. And we started the show talking about the integration of the Latin American conference. What challenges did that bring to you, and just how important is it that you kind of ensured that there was an authentic Latin American knowledge in the conference? Yeah,
I'd say there were some challenges there. Certainly, it wasn't the biggest challenge, like you said earlier. I think these two regions mesh really well with each other. I mean, there's a lot of parallels between sports betting in the US and sports betting in some countries. Brazil is just a few years behind in regulating, but the whole kind of federal versus state interplay there is very similar. So there's a lot of similarities between the two regions, but obviously, the challenge was making sure that the agenda appeals to everybody at the same time. So we do have a North America stage that is only for North America content. We have a Latin America stage that is only for Latin America content. Our other stages, so player protection, affiliate leaders, payment expert, and our leaders stage, kind of offer a mix of both English language and Spanish language content. And I think that's key to point out that we have huge translation teams there on site who are translating everything simultaneously, from English into Spanish and Portuguese, from Spanish into English and Portuguese. You get the drift. So that's something that is really important for us to get right, to make sure that everybody can access the content, and that there is content relevant to everybody attending, which hopefully the audience finds there is. At the same time, I'd say the biggest challenge for me was every time I wrote a session on the agenda, it then had to be translated into Spanish, or vice versa. So that has actually been a lot to deal with, but otherwise it's been okay. And I think it's a natural fit. It's a natural integration.
Yeah, I agree, because the North American content, even though it's, designed for the North American market, and likewise with the LATAM content, designed for the LATAM market, but there's knowledge there and there's insight there that can transcend into the other regions. So it's not exclusively insightful for one demographic. Right.
Well, exactly. In some panels, you'll come across some chatter about specific regulation, right? So specific regulation in New Jersey maybe isn't going to be that interesting to somebody who's based in Sao Paulo. But the way the operators responded to that regulation and worked with regulators, that's a lesson that it doesn't really matter which country you're in. The lessons are still the lessons. Everything I talked about earlier about building brand and building loyalty, there might be some cultural differences. Again, I keep using the same examples, but between the US and Brazil, right? There are maybe a couple of differences in the way that audiences access brands, the way that they consume content, for example. But the lessons really are still the same, and I think very universal. So that's why I think that you might have some people going this week who plan to only attend sessions around North American content, but they're hopefully going to see in the agenda, oh, actually this session about sports teams and partnerships in Latin America is really key to me as well. So I'm going to go get my translation headphone on and pop along to that, hopefully.
Nice. Yeah, I could really see that happening. That's something I'd do for sure, just to gain as much knowledge from the event as possible. And Aidan, I'm getting told to wrap up, but I cannot leave without asking you about the pretty spectacular EDM festival that closes the show.
Yes.
You're bringing your dancing shoes.
So unfortunately, I cannot make it. I have to fly back from Miami to New York that day. I actually have my citizenship interview the next day. So unfortunately, I can't go to the Infinity, which is the festival. But I went to one in Rio. It was amazing. It took me a long time to recover from. As you know, we have Steve Aoki here this week. So it's just, it is just incredible. And, in Rio was a fantastic closing party. So I think this one is probably going to be even better because, we learn something every time. Our events team, the ops team is amazing. I already know some of the stuff they're putting on, and it's just, there aren't really that many other conferences that come with a festival component. So don't miss that part of it. Don't fly out Thursday. If I didn't have to go somewhere else, I would definitely be there on Thursday night. So yeah. Make sure you take your dancing shoes.
I'll bring mine. I bring them everywhere I go. I'll be dancing out of the studio today. But yeah, super cool. We've got dance music royalty and Steve Aoki. So yeah, really cool. Just not to be missed. A spectacular end to what is going to be a fantastic show. And congratulations on all your hard work, Aidan.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see it come to fruition this week. And thanks ever so much for sparing us 20 minutes as well. We know you're a busy man at the moment.
Of course. Anything for you guys. Thank you, Joe.